Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with there are so many, in our series of interesting overtures. I'm really enjoying this series. I hope you are too, because it gives me an opportunity to talk about a lot of unfamiliar music in a short space. And I just love being able to toss these things out, and because they're all going to be wonderful, wonderful bits of music that we can listen to and enjoy and use as a wedge or an entree into the lives of these composers or eras or epics or whatever it is. They're just wonderful, wonderful little hors d'oeuvres, tasty tidbits. You get the picture. And now, today, we are going to talk about an overture that used to be extremely popular, but that you never hear today, ever. I mean, you'll never see it, you'll never hear it. People talked about it. You may know the title. The title is The Caliph of Bagdad. And it's an opera comique composed in 1800. It welcomed in the new century by Boïeldieu. That's François-Adrian Boieldieu, whose, years were 1775, there we go, to 1834. And he's most famous, as some of you may know, for his opera La Dame Blanche, after Walter Scott, believe it or not, and his harp concerto, which is absolutely one of the two or three greatest works ever written for the instrument. He was a masterful composer, really a very, very, very talented guy. He wrote mostly operas, as French composers tended to do, and The Caliph of Bagdad was one of his biggest successes. Because the setting is in the other place, not Western Europe. He gets to use exotic instruments like percussion, much as Mozart does in the Abduction from the Seraglio, or Haydn in Incontro Improviso, or any of those things set in Turkey or the East, or there was the Orient. I mean, it was all the same thing to those people. I mean, they were nothing if not cultural imperialists, and the idea that something happened outside of Europe meant you could do some interesting things with instrumental color. And of course, Boieldieu does, and he does it with enormous sensitivity, I must say. His handling of those instruments is quite skillful, as you'll hear for yourself. Now, this overture is about 7 and a bit minutes long, and it has a slow introduction followed by a zippy main allegro. We are going to hear a bit of the slow introduction and then the entire zippy main allegro. The reason I think that this introduction is so interesting is because it shows just how talented Boieldieu was at injecting a little bit of interest or life into what would otherwise be rather conventional material. The theme is quite simple and charming and has nothing of exoticism about it whatsoever. But you'll notice that opening melody has two phrases, and the first is irregular, and it's balanced by a regular second phrase, which restores the sense of order. And it's all just a question of the phrasing and the accent. The first bit of tune does not go where you think it's going to, and the accents don't fall where you think they should. But it's all the more effective because the music is slow and the tune is so simple. And then everything gets set right in the balancing second phrase. And you hear the whole melody twice. And I just want to play it for you, this initial statement of the melody twice, so you just get a sense of how creative he could be with the simplest of materials. I think that really is the sign of a composer, at least with a certain amount of talent. Inspiration, genius, well, that's a whole nother issue. But Boieldieu knew what he was up to. So here is a little bit of the slow introduction. This performance is on CPO. This is a wonderful disc, by the way. You get 6 overtures and his piano concerto, which is also lovely. Absolutely lovely. He wrote some wonderful instrumental music, as harp concerto fanciers already know. And so the piano concerto is on here too. The performers are the Orchestra della Svizzera. Oh, let me do this. Orchestra della Svizzera Italiana Calamari Fritti. That's what it is. Well, not the calamari fritti. That might be my lunch. But it's the Orchestra della Svizzera Italiana under Howard Griffiths on CPO, the overture of the Caliph of Bagdad. The Caliph of Bagdad. Here's the slow introduction part. See what I mean by making the melody be a little bit lopsided so it doesn't do quite what you expected to? And that keeps you listening. It makes it intriguing. And the intrigue is immediately followed up by the zippy allegro with its exotic Turkish, Baghdadi or whatever. Well, Turkey's near Iraq, right? Or whatever it is. But the zippy percussion instruments. And it's just a lively, it's a comedy, obviously. It's a lively, rousing, fun, ebullient, just delightful bonbon of the orchestral repertoire that deserves to be heard once in a while. It really does. And here it is. charming. It's marvelous. And isn't it so frustrating that in live concerts these days, even light music live concerts, you just don't hear this stuff. I mean, it's so strange. Someday there's someone who'll write a sociological paper about it. But the fact is that our concert life is getting narrower and narrower and narrower. Programs are getting more and more limited and more restricted, but our recorded life is exploding with the unique and the unusual because the economic forces driving the two are completely different now. And so that's what's happening. Happily, there are wonderful labels like CPO, which record this interesting repertoire and which did a disc of Boïeldieu. I mean, it's wonderful that people dig around and find this stuff and think about it. But it's great because, I mean, where else would we have an opportunity to hear this music? And I would not have the chance to make an interesting overture video were it not for Maestro Griffiths and CPO. So good for them. And keep on listening, folks. Thanks for joining me. Take care.